Welcome, everybody. If you've been walking down this way, then you are in violation of jaywalking. That's right. You are at Jubilee Street, a music podcast where each week we talk about some music, sometimes Nick Cave or other various artists. I'm joined today by my seminal co-host, Ian McCurtis. Ian, why don't you say hi to everybody?
Hola. Hi to everybody.
And I am Jake Curtis. Hola, hi to everybody as well. Ian, why don't you tell the listeners, the jaywalkers, what we're going to be talking about today?
Today we are talking about Where Do We Go Now, But Nowhere from the Boatman's Call.
The carnival drums, all mad in the air. Grim reapers and skeletons and a missionary bell. Oh, where do we go now but nowhere? In a colonial hotel.
So, Ian, as you sit on your...
drums are mad in the air.
The clinical benches with nothing to talk about.
That's like a Bukowski line if I've ever heard one.
I'm just going to go right into it. I think this is another reason why Boatman's Call is becoming one of my favorite albums to just put on and listen to. Makes me feel good. I like this one. It's got a nice somberness to it. Again, they're kind of touching on the, general themes that we've talked about in past episodes with Lime Tree Arbor and Brompton Oratory. And Ian, I am curious about something. This song made me think of a newer Nick Cave song, which technically isn't a Bad Seed song because it was recorded with Warren during the Carnage session. Can you guess which song I'm talking about?
Let's see. Is it Balcony Man because the balcony line?
Balcony Man. So what made me think about it is in a colonial hotel, we fucked up the sun, which is awesome. And then we fucked it down again. Well, the sun comes up and the sun goes down. And then, I don't know. There is this connection with Nick Cave lyrics and hotels. And that line in a colonial hotel just really stuck out to me as well because I was looking on Genius for the lyrics. I use that and then the Nick Cave website. Sometimes people annotate the songs on Genius, so I like to use it. So this is just, this isn't like a verified person, but they said the lines, "I remember a girl so very well," and "In a colonial hotel, recall Chelsea Hotel No. 2 by Leonard Cohen," which also talks of moments of sexual intimacy in a hotel setting. Getting head.
Yeah,
yes.
Giving me head on the unmade bed or whatever.
Uh-huh. And so I thought you might find that interesting. It kind of piqued my interest to like dive into these lyrics a little bit more. What are your initial thoughts, reactions?
To what?
Well, to like, I guess my initial question for you was that I was trying to connect like, might there be like a connection for this album to Carnage? Because mainly, I know this is kind of a stretch, but the color of the text, which, he's put red on the cover of his records before, but, I was like, the Boatman's Call is in red with like a black and white picture of him against a brick wall, which is, very of the time for a band like this. And then Carnage is the black, red, white background, Nick Cave, Warren Ellis. I don't know. Is there some through line here? Maybe I am purposefully stretching this to see if maybe there's something to be mined with like a connection between like, because there's a lot of traveling in Carnage. There's a lot of isolation in that. And I also feel that way with Boatman's Call.
Could be. I think I don't know where he sits with it now, but I know in the past he said he's not a big fan of this album. Boatman's Call, I mean, not Carnage. So maybe Carnage was his attempt at that type of songwriting again. I don't know. You could be onto something. It is the same shade of red.
I think other than that, this of the Boatman's Call songs that we've covered in the last month or so, half month, this is my favorite one we've done. It's a pretty long song. I think it's almost 6 minutes. And it's really effective. I think more effective than Lime Tree Arbor or Brompton Oratory, which I think are, you know, a little less downtrodden and a bit more uplifting, I think. I really like this song. And you, like you said, the carnival drums all mad in the air. Grim Reapers and skeletons and a missionary bell.
The song this made me think of was As I Sat Sadly by Her Side, which we did,
Great song.
I don't know, 6 months ago or so at this point.
Uh-huh.
In that, I think that song is about sort of a breakup where two people just can't love each other like they used to. It's just not, they're not the same anymore. And that sort of feeling when you just know things aren't going to work out and both people want to love each other, but it's just not working, which is something we've all felt, whether it be a romantic thing or a relationship with one of our parents or a sibling, where like both the people wish they were close, but they're not close anymore. This song, I think, is the saddest song on the record, and I think it's a similar theme, but instead of two people that can't love each other anymore, I think this song is about someone has just done something to ruin the relationship, and you're not even mad. It's just, where do we go now but nowhere? It's over. Like, there's no point even being mad anymore. It's just, this is the end, and that's really sad.
You've moved into that like empty acceptance phase of the ending of the relationship.
Yeah, and that's like, I don't know. I don't know, Jake. I've been in a weird emotional place lately. I don't know if it's COVID finally catching up to me. I don't know if it's the winter, but like, when I watch movies now, like, I cry at things I didn't used to. Mm-hmm. Just things get me more often than they used to. And this song, when we were listening to it now for the pod, I was like, this song is so much sadder than I remember it being. Really got to me.
Well, we got a whole lot more to lose as 30-year-olds than we do as, 20-year-olds. And I think it has a lot to do with we've both been in like long-term relationships, and I think that there's a good chance that, there's more fear of that like going away. We've gotten more comfortable, and it's scary because there are things that we might have to address about ourselves that, having made it this long. I've talked to my therapist about this, and I asked him, I'm like, is there something to this shit about like your brain telling you the older you get, like you have more anxiety and like you're more impacted by these emotions because like you're not supposed to be alive this long, like because we're really just animals. Like, and he kind of gave me like a non-answer about it, which he tends to do a lot, but I think it's kind of the job as a therapist to like approach questions more so without giving definitive answers and more so like guidance for you to how to think about and like better yourself. But I don't know. I've been
it's
in
not
and out
their job
of
to be a life coach.
Yeah, I mean they can be if you want them to be, and he does that often. But anywho, yeah, no, this is a sad one. That doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it, and I think like there's a thing that you and I can both relate to, where there are moments in your life, and being that we both were surrounded by that people that we truly, truly loved and admired, we made decisions at some point in our life where we didn't want to put up with that behavior that they would, sort of enact around us and onto us. And we had to, let them go, so to speak, because we couldn't watch them decay the way that we were beginning to watch them decay in front of us. And, some of them are still here with us. Others have moved on, passed away. And to me, this song really epitomizes the like idea of this. And this is a pretty big trope in TV with like addicts or like alcoholics, but you sometimes have that friend where they're like a bar buddy, and you have all these like good times with your bar buddy, but you go to the doctor and the doctor says, if you keep drinking like this, we're going to have to take you're going to have to get your like a liver transplant or you're going to die. And it doesn't always have to be that dire, but it might be a moment where you're like, yeah, I can't drink anymore. And then that friend's like, come on, man, who cares what the doctor says? Most people, you know, I've been drinking for 50 years and I'm fine. And it's like, you know, you got to leave him behind or you die. And I think it's one of those difficult things about being older is that there are certain things that are like no brainers for you anymore. Like, sorry, I'm not going to hang out with a bunch of people doing drugs again. I'm not interested in getting blackout drunk anymore. I might have a drink or two. I might get tipsy or, you know, smoke a little weed or something. But I personally haven't even done that. And it's really hard because like going more global with the theme of this song is it's about him getting out of his addiction. And there are lines that directly, you know, apply to that. And I think that there are relationships that people are in when they're addicted to drugs and the drugs might be a part of it or they might be a part of them in the relationship. And then when they go get clean from this fresh, clean antiseptic air behind the locked gates and old donkey moans, oh, where do we go but nowhere? Around the duck pond we grimly mope, gloomily and mournfully we go rounds again, and one more doomed time without much hope. And it's like, if heroin is your mistress, you know, it is every time you go around the pond, it's one more doomed time until you break off from that cycle and you walk down the, you know, you walk down the other path and you stop following that duck that's got you like hypnotized in the pond that you're chasing with all that, with the drugs. And to wrap up this long tangent is like, it's difficult to like maintain relationships after you've made a big decision in your life. And there's probably a lot of people that, whether it, you know, I had, there's an annotation here that Nick got divorced from his first wife, Vivian Carniero in 1996, which was before this album was released. And so it's definitely like, you know, it's sad. In short, it's really sad, you know, and, you know, getting clean sometimes means that you come out the other side, you know, scathed. You do have battle wounds, you know, you have people that you've lost. Like when, I don't know, we can edit this out if we're uncomfortable about it, but our good friend Cody Ray, the last time I remember having a friendship with him was the summer of 2012. And I hadn't seen him in a long time. Our house was kind of in shambles. He'd been doing a lot of drugs. And I stopped coming home because I didn't want to constantly be living in like a punk house. And we could do a whole podcast. You know, we've mentioned it on other episodes, but we could do a whole podcast about that time. It was crazy, unhinged drug party lifestyle all the time. And I was a part of it for a long time. And I went to meet up with him and I hadn't seen him for a long time. And there was this like tension boiling the whole night. We went to like Silver Dollar and, you know, it was weird. I kind of tried to chat him up about TV shows like we had always done, but there was like this wall up. And I had one up too, you know, because I knew he wasn't happy with the way that I'd kind of like distanced myself because I was dating somebody and I got pulled into this, you know, relationship. And eventually we end up at some random person's apartment. I don't even remember where we were at. I'd probably had a couple of drinks by then. And then we ended up back at 7th Street. And I didn't live there anymore. I'm pretty sure I'd moved out at the time, but I can't remember. But I just remember there was a break where there were like 6 people there. I won't say their names. There's 2 of them I won't mention because I don't know them and I don't. But it was me, Chad, Tyler, and then Cody. And the 2 other people left after this happened. But Cody started like breaking shit and like throwing shit around the room. And he was so fucked up that he was like asking me to like hit him and yell at him. And it was at that moment where I knew he was out of control. And this wasn't the guy that I had loved. And he had made this decision to be unhappy with himself. And that's what this song really reminded me of, is the crack of the drum, a little child did scare. I can still see his fingers pressed in my hand. Oh, where do we go but nowhere? If I could relive one day of my life, if I could relive just a single one, you on the balcony. And that made me think of hanging out with Cody behind our apartment on 7th Street, where I'd get home. And again, longtime listeners probably have heard this story, but, you know, if not, I'd hear this voice, Jacoby. And I would, you know, walk up the back stoop and he'd be there and he'd hand me a beer and we'd hang out and fucking watch TV shows and movies and be goofy together. And yeah, it sucked because he lost his shit that night. He like pushed an air conditioning unit out of a window, which would be hilarious if it, you know, hadn't almost come close to like crushing my foot. And forgive me, Ian, if I've gone on for a long time, but like, I think I kind of finally get Boatman's Call. And I think that the title of that album is very grim. And I think that this song is healing in a way, but it's also very upsetting. And I understand what you mean about how you can change over time and you react to things more emotionally. 100%.
I think what makes this the most sad to me is, you know, it makes me think of all those people you mentioned. It makes me think of our friends like Chad and Tyler when they would date people. I remember they were dating these two girls, Claire and Sydney, at the same time, who were like best friends. And we all became like friends together, and it felt really good. It was, you know, it sucks when your friend's dating someone you aren't friends with, and it's nice when you have this whole friend group and everyone's friends with each other, and it felt great. And then as the relationship went on, it was like, you know, my friends aren't good for them, or they aren't good for my, you know, either way, it's not working, and that sucks because you like the people. And that's what this song makes me think of, is when two people like each other, you like everyone involved in the situation, and it's still bad. And that's like, you'd almost rather just dislike the person. It's easy when you're dating someone you grow to not like, or your friend's dating someone you don't like, and you just write them off. It's hard when you still deep down think they're a good person. So this song, the part that really gets me is the part about making a cake full of glass and bleach and razor blades. Like, two people in a relationship trying to do something nice for each other, but it's just enabling the bad things.
Yeah.
And this song hits me because this is a song of someone realizing that, like, oh, I realize this person makes me worse. And we had so many friends who never got to this song. Like, they never got to that point where they realized it, and it just got worse and worse, and they might have ended up dead or not in a very good place.
This reminds me a lot of the long-term relationship I was about to exit around the time all that stuff with Cody had happened. And I think this reminds me a lot of like when she told me that we were going to break up, and I was a lot more sad when it happened, because it was scary because you don't really know what you're going to do from there. And our lives had become so intertwined, you know? But I got out of it, and I was stronger for it. And it was really tough, but there were also moments where we would both do these like really awful things to each other. And I can't speak for her, but like I would definitely like kind of like fuck with her. And like I remember there was this one night where, you know, actually I don't really know how pertinent this is to the podcast, so I'm actually gonna basically I would do these things where I would kind of try to scare her. And it was never like anything like fucked up or anything like that, but it was like to start fights. And I remember that this kind of like sentiment of like the making a cake, you know, but like putting your hair or glass in there. Like I remember I was like trying to self-sabotage the relationship. You know, I was trying to like freak her out and like just not have to like break up with her on my own. And eventually she pulled the trigger and did it. And, you know, we're on good terms now. You know, I wish her the best. She's not really someone that I talk to very often. I have a varying relationship with like how to deal with exes. And I think that sometimes not talking to your ex at all is the way to go. And, I don't need to have any involvement in your life after we've dated. But I haven't dated that many people, but I think this is an important song for the record. And especially considering the songs that come after it, like Idiot Prayer, I think makes those songs even more impactful as you move through the sequencing on that record.
Yeah, I think this is like, I don't know if I'd say it's my favorite song on the record, but it's emotionally like the centerpiece of the record. It does make all the other songs better because it's there. Your thing about picking at people to start fights, I don't know. I've never been that type. I feel like I'm the type to lash out at myself internally more than at other people. Yeah. But it does make me really think about what you were talking about, meeting up with Cody and how he had a wall up. And as you know, I haven't drank since I was 18. I've never really done drugs. So as someone who's always been sober around a friend group that was very much not, I feel like I would have friends that would get inebriated, get fucked up, whatever. And then a lot of times I feel like they thought I had a superiority complex and would like lash out. And I mean, I've had a lot of friends say really fucked up things to me when they were drunk because I think they kind of resented me and were too emotionally stunted to like talk about these things sober. And that stuff really hurts. Like that. You know, I think about the same thing with this song, Jake, and it brings back bad memories.
Yeah, I mean, you've known me for a long time. I've definitely said some not great stuff to you that was hurtful to our relationship. But
I wasn't thinking so much of you when you've done stuff like that. I knew and immediately in the moment you didn't mean it. Yeah, there's been things that like Cody would say, or
Cody said.
I don't want to go into names, but there were things that people would say where like I knew they meant them.
Yeah, and you know, to kind of go off on a little bit of a tangent here, because I do think that we enter into a territory with like being respectful of the people we're talking about, and I do feel like we should mention like Ian especially, but we both had a bond with Cody that we could write an entire book about, and we could, you know, talk about him for hours, and we do, and we continue to, and he comes up in all of our conversations, and I think about Cody all the time, and I think about Cody's best parts, and I think about his worst parts, and we went to his funeral, you know, we held each other when we were there, and we saw all these fucking people come up there who enabled him and acted like they were upset that this happened. And, you know, if anyone's going to be like a ravaged Avenger, it's going to be us. Like, you know.
Yeah, that was hard.
I would give anything to have Cody around again and just show him what I've been doing and share like the book that I wrote and like the screenplays that I wrote, because a lot of my efforts in doing that stuff is for him, because I truly believed that if Cody believed in himself more, like he could have been, could you imagine if Cody had a podcast, how great that would be? Mm-hmm. Or like he had a YouTube channel or just somewhere that he could be him. And so I just want to say that, you know, we talk about him with admiration and how much we miss him, and he is a big part of our lives. So, you know, to any listeners that think we might be, you know, but to go back to what you were saying, Cody said some shit that cut deep, like, and it's because he was really hurt, you know, like somebody else, not us, hurt Cody. And I think like I wish so much for him that he had moved past whatever he got blocked on, you know? And he was pretty close a lot of the time, but still he would like, he just needed whatever he needed, you know? And yeah, a lot of times the saddest Nick Cave songs get us talking about, you know, more interesting like life events that I think kind of color our life as more interesting than just, you know, two guys that used to go to shows a lot and, you know, like NoFX and Rancid, and, you know, now we both really like rap and all kinds of music and comics and books and movies and, you know, everything that makes us who we are. And yeah, I didn't expect the episode to go this route, honestly. I wasn't. This was one episode where I usually kind of have like an idea of how I want to approach the song, and this one kind of went like left field, as Chad liked to say. Left field.
I think
Curtis.
this is one of the we haven't done a dance song like this in a minute, so
Yeah.
No telling where it's gonna go. I think something important that you touched on is how you do stuff now, creatively, artistically, with Cody in mind. Like if he could just see this, you know, because I do the same, and I think some people are motivated to do great things internally, but most people aren't. I'm not. I don't think you are. We need like other people, and I think that's a nice thing to take away from this song. The line where he talks about if I could relive a day of my life, it'd be you as my future bride. Like that whole section. Mm-hmm. You can imagine Nick Cave like writing these songs for that person he used to love, like that's no longer that person anymore, but he's thinking of the person they used to be. I think that's something we can all take away from it, is like, I do the same thing. I write things, or I make music with Cody in mind, or other people I've known who died, or not even people who died, people who I was close to in high school that aren't people I would be friends with anymore, but I think about how they used to be when they were 16 and know if they could see this now, what would they think?
Yeah.
Like that's something nice to have to like fuel yourself.
Are you familiar with the Serenity Prayer that gets brought up in the second verse?
I'm not. I actually meant to look it up. I'm guessing you did.
It's on the Genius page, actually. So the annotations show that tea and biscuits are like a very light meal for a recovering addict because, you know, they don't have a lot of... I'm guessing this was... He must have done rehab in London or something like that. Sounds very English.
Nothing's going to hurt your stomach.
But the Serenity Prayer was invented by an American theologian in the 1930s which was later adopted by Alcoholics Anonymous and 12-step programs.
I know what it is. Do you know what author of ours loves that prayer?
I'm going to guess like Stephen King, but I don't know. Maybe Murakami.
It's Kurt Vonnegut. I think it's in Slaughterhouse-Five. He's like, this is, you know, the most beautiful thing ever written, or something like that, you know?
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, give us the serenity to accept what we cannot be.
I think it's in Slaughterhouse-Five.
What cannot be changed, the courage to change what can be changed, and the wisdom to know the one from the other. I mean, really, truly, that is like one of the best things ever written. And
it really is. Like, you know, I don't usually like things called prayers, but that is a good code to live your life by. Absolutely.
I think like that makes the song even more impactful because like there were times where you and I were in the gutter, so to speak, and you know, I've never been suicidal, like truly suicidal, but I've definitely felt like I didn't want to, you know, be alive anymore at various times in my life. Like I was just tired of having to be alive. But I think that sentiment, the courage to change what can be changed.
My early adult life, like 18 to 22, I thought that was just a lot like, you know, we were around depressed people all the time. I just thought that was like, okay, once you're not a kid anymore, you just want to die all the time. That's just life. Like, that sounds really dark, but I just didn't know. Like, all the people we were around felt that way. That's how I felt. I was tired and slightly sick all the time from not treating myself right. And, like, I was just like, this is how it is, you know?
Imagine if you treated yourself like that now, like how you used to work at PetSmart, like have to go in at like 2 or 3 in the morning. He would just sleep from like 10 to 2 or something, or 10 to 1:30 and then drive to work. Talk about
and I'm sure,
basketball.
3 or 4 hours of sleep a day makes you depressed, but I didn't realize that, I was just like, this is how it is.
I can vouch for that because I've been, knock on wood, I had a great sleep last night, and I'm hoping to do it again tonight. But it can really fuck with your brain for sure.
Now if I get 3 hours of sleep in a night, I don't feel great mentally the next day, and I know myself well enough to know that's why. But when you're 18, you don't. You're just like, you just take it for granted. You're just like, this is how it is.
Well, it's just like the older you get, the more aware you become of your problems, because you also know you're older. So you're more like you've been standing on your legs for 30 years. So there's bound to be like some kind of like damage you've done to your knee from like bending it too much, or running into the wrong mosh pit. So
I can still run into any mosh pit at any time. Don't worry, listeners.
There was one time where Ian stage dove into a crowd that did not catch him, and I feel horrible about that all the time.
Knock on wood, I've never gotten hurt in a mosh pit, and I've been in quite a few.
It's because you're like Egg from Arrested Development. Like, you got a low center of gravity, so like you can't be knocked down, and no one can hurt you. You're like Colossus.
I guess so. No one's ever swung at me in my face, thank God. I've been very lucky.
Yeah, so I think there was one last thing I wanted to bring up. The chorus. So the chorus changes at the end of the song. Oh, wake up, my love, my lover, make up. And then it's, oh, wake up, my love, my lover, wake up. And I think it's a great way to end the song, because I think that even though this song is very sad, I think there's like this, like, it's like tinged with like that sepia tone of hope, like it's like the flashback or the flash forward to like 30 years later, and Captain America is like sitting on the bench with gray hair, and it's got like a very like
big
hopeful
Marvel guy,
quality
Jake
to
Curtis.
it. Yeah. Well, I just want to, to all the plebeians out there who only know about the Marvel movies, they might get that reference, like Corey Lucas.
Yeah, I think it's not to throw any band, that's what separates this from like Law Dispute. Like,
yeah.
For something to be truly sad, you have to tinge it with a little bit of hope, with a little bit of happiness, because that makes it even more sad. Like, that bullshit. Like, you can't have light without the dark. That's true. Like, any emotion is going to be stronger if you balance it with a little bit of the opposite, as opposed to like emo music being so one thing, it kind of becomes cheesy,
Yep.
That's how you make these things subtle, is you add a little bit of hope in there, you add a little bit of light.
Kind of like, what was that guy's name? The BAM guy.
Emerald.
It's like what Emerald does, you got to add that little BAM of hope at the end of the song, leaving the audience feeling a little bit better. It's like the end credits sequence at the end of a Marvel movie. It gets you excited about the next movie that's coming out.
Again, Marvel.
Oh, man.
So I had notes, but like this episode went a different way, and I'm glad it did, because I like this a lot. But I guess one thing I do want to make sure we talk about is when that violin comes in, is it the second to last verse? Yeah. That like makes the song, like, thank you, Warren Ellis, for, oh man, that like takes it to another level. The way the violin is interacting with I guess it's Conway Savage on piano, probably.
Sounds right.
It's so beautiful. One of the best violin parts in a Bad Seed song.
Yeah, my friend Ringo Starr said that it's his favorite violin solo.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think we can get him on the pod next week?
He said that he does not deal with people who wear masks, which was, I was like, oh, anti-masker.
Did you hear the new Kanye song where he said, "I don't negotiate with therapists"? Such a good line.
Is that the song with the game?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the best song I've heard since No Child Left Behind by him.
But yeah, is that it, Jake? Is there anything else you want to add? Or
No, I'm sorry we didn't get to any of your notes, but I think that this is a song that would be worthy of being revisited in like a year or two on the podcast. So
I think these songs, this is when it calls for it. I love doing this kind of episode. That's what makes this pod what it is.
Well, I imagine at this rate, we ought to just do like a Boatman's Call residency if I haven't already mentioned that on past episodes. So we'll probably close out the month with another one of these and, move into some new territory for February. Maybe we'll do some romance songs.
Maybe.
I was thinking maybe doing a cursive, maybe doing Domestica or our favorite like Valentine's Day records or something.
Oh, doing a, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
Going a little off topic, off the beaten path.
Mm-hmm. Going a little Hallmark card.
A little Hall Notes.
Maybe we'll do a Flag Day episode for March or whenever Flag Day is.
Our favorite patriotic American, our favorite, John Philip Sousa marches.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah. No, listen, John Philip Sousa wrote some great songs. I remember really like...
Well, yeah, as a tuba player, that's like your chance to shine. It's John Philip Sousa.
Yep. Ian, I'm going to go ahead and right the ship, take us home, so to speak. Everybody,
the boatman's calling.
Please check us out on Apple Podcasts. You can rate, subscribe to all our episodes. We put an episode out a week. We've been pretty regular about that for a while. You can also now, it's a new feature, you can, I believe you can leave a rating on Spotify, correct?
Correct.
So on Spotify, you can leave us a rating.
Only.
We'd love 5 stars. If you leave anything other than 5 stars, we will send out Ringo Starr and Blue the Intern Dog to track you down and
what a team.
make you
They're getting a Marvel movie.
Play Ringo's patented reverse fills. So be careful. You can also check us out at Jubilee Street Pod on Instagram, jubileestreetpod@gmail.com for all your mailbag questions. If you'd like to ask us questions, tell us how much you like the podcast, tell us that we suck and we need to do things better, tell us that we need to do merch or whatever. If you think there's anything if there's an episode you'd like to hear, if you don't like our opinions, fucking write us in and tell us and we'll talk to you about it. And I believe that's everything. We've got a Facebook page. It's not incredibly active. I'd recommend just getting an Instagram if you can, and you can access it on your desktop and you can follow us there. I update there every couple of weeks. So yeah, thanks everybody. You did the right thing by violating the law and jaywalking today. We will see you next week. Have a blessed and wonderful time until then. We love you.
Bless up. Jake, I wish I knew how to make mashup albums. That's something I should learn how to do. You know what would be a great one is Boatman's Calling London or something like that. London Calling by The Clash and Boatman's Call, a mashup album.
London Boatman's Call.
Something like that, yeah. That'd be a good mashup.
They'd like that for Fart Simpson on Office Hours Live. He does all those mashups.
I would love to. Maybe I'll do that this year. Learn how to make mashups. I got so many ideas like that.
I got so many big ideas.
Laughing and brazen in bed, sits snoring her knuckles in the chemical light. Oh, where do we go now but nowhere? You come for me now with a cake that you've made, ravaged avenger with a clip in your head, full of glass and bleach, and my old razor blades. Oh,